get you to believe a lot of misinformation about Minecraft. So here's every Minecraft myth busted. Starting with, it's hard to talk about Minecraft myths without at least mentioning this one, Herobrine. Now, players love to speculate about the noise that they hear creaking behind them, or the figure they see lurking in the corner of their eye. And Minecraft has plenty of creepy ambience that does not help with that. And while Herobrine has traced its origins back to the original versions of the game, it is definitely and assuredly a myth. And no amount of scary stories or blurry Bigfoot style photos will convince me otherwise. I mean, come on, the changelog even says removed Herobrine. Ridiculous. Oh, he's right behind me, isn't he? You never want to be unlucky enough to get killed, and then looted by whatever mob that killed you. Yeah, a full netherite zombified piglin can be pretty terrifying, but not everyone knows that if a mob picks up your loot, that mob will never despawn. Thinking otherwise is a myth, and so any mob wearing equipment that it picked up are made unable to despawn, similar to when you use a name tag. And so if you can't find them after you die, it's not that it despawned, but more likely that they walked away, or they died as well. But as long as whatever you looted doesn't jump into lava or hug a warden, your gear should be just fine. Phantoms. Everyone's favorite sky shriekers. And while a rested day might keep the phantoms away, did you know that you actually don't have to sleep? Yeah, it's not true. It's a lie told to you by the voices. See, what actually resets the phantom's timer is just laying in the bed. And so if there's still things that you want to do at night, you can still cancel the sleep and roam around the dark completely phantomless. Of course, setting the time to day is pretty helpful for burning phantoms, but just by right-clicking a bed every once in a while, that's more than enough. Despite the way it looks, boats are a pretty common way to break fall damage. But do our other mounts do the same? Now, you might think that horses, which are arguably stronger than a wooden boat, could be able to relieve some of that pressure, but let's give it a shot. From world height. And we're off. Now, some people might have been able to guess that a horse plummeting from orbit would not have been able to survive, and those same people might have guessed that the horse and its rider would splatter into 17 different pieces. Myth busted. You're welcome. I was told recently that not everyone likes crushing turtles in their off time. And if that's you, you might have heard that the feather falling enchantment prevents cracking turtle eggs when you walk onto them. Now, an enchantment like that would be pretty useful. I mean, imagine if we could prevent turtle eggs from being cracked and farmland from being trampled. But unfortunately, this is yet another myth. And as you can see, no matter how much we do it, the turtle eggs will still get stomped. And our farmland doesn't fare much better. I mean, look at this. Look at all the eggs that we're crushing. This could have been prevented, could have been stopped. Everyone loves their Minecraft pets. Luckily, Wolf Armor came to Minecraft in a recent update 1.20.5, along with the armadillo and its scutes. And while it was being developed, the armor received several buffs, helping guarantee players that their special friends would remain safe. Skeletons, zombies, spiders, all are far easier to take down without risking their lives. However, there's an idea that this armor could also help your wolf survive anything. But can an armored wolf survive TNT? Well, I'm a man of science, let's find out. Oh, I didn't think that would work. What's a breeze's counterpart? Now, you might think that it's the blaze, but breezes also have a lot in common with ghasts. And just like a ghast fireball, you're able to punch the wind charges back in any direction. And also like a ghast, the landing projectile has a wide area of effect. Levers will be flipped, candles get extinguished. The impact is essentially the complete opposite of a ghast fireball, which makes a fiery crater. And I, for one, can't wait for Mojang to add in ghast rods to Minecraft. Ugh. Minecraft has a slew of conversion mechanics. Villagers get turned into zombies, mushrooms get turned into cows, and when 1.21 introduced the bogged, it also came with a shearing mechanic, not unlike the mushroom. And by taking a pair of shears to a bog's head, you can give it a shroomy haircut. But does it convert the bogged back to a normal skeleton? The answer is no. For whatever reason, the bogged can't be converted, despite having an identical mushroom harvest as the mushroom. Which, I don't know, if Mojang sees this, maybe the myth could become real. I wouldn't hold your breath for it. Have you ever caught yourself saying this? I really hate it when monuments spawn with only 2 Elder Guardians. Well, that's what I would say if I was bad at Minecraft. Sorry. Now, we've all been there, crawling our way through the Ocean Monuments maze, running low on potions, and getting lost in its corridors. But it is guaranteed that Ocean Monuments spawn with 3 Elder Guardians. And considering your chances of getting the Tide Armor trim with a Looting 3 sword, that should technically guarantee you at least 1 Tide Armor trim, unless you have bad luck like me. And if you need help finding all of the Elder Guardian, then this should help. 1 Elder spawns in each of the wings, and 1 at the top. And if you're quick, you can blow in with TNT before they leave the area. And if you still can't find them, then that's not a myth, that's a skill issue. The Deep Dark is terrifying. And when you take your first step triggering a sensor, you start to become hyper aware and even a little paranoid. Every sound you hear could be dangerous. And just a bat flapping in the cave becomes a time bomb. Though when we take a deep breath and calm down for a second, we start to see that the Deep Dark isn't as dangerous as it seems. It's a common misconception. And although sensors are triggered, other mobs aren't actually able to trigger the Shrieker, meaning the only thing that can call the warden is you. Which just begs the question, what did you do to make the warden so mad? Without checking, are creepers silent? Well, did you know that creepers actually make noise? Yeah, not verbally, not since the incident. And while they don't make ambient sounds like zombies, they do make noise with their footsteps. Listen closely. See, the catch is that their footsteps sound eerily similar to that of the players. So part of why you can't hear one sneak up on you is that their footsteps intermingle with your own. That is, all the way until they hiss and explode. Have you ever had an encounter with the killer bunny? It's a secret aggressive rabbit type added in the older versions of Minecraft. And at first glance, you would never even know that it could do more damage than a diamond sword. Well, good thing it's a myth. At least now it is. Since in Minecraft 1.8, it was removed from natural rabbit spawns, making the only way to see it would be spawning it in with commands. But the fear of walking into the killer bunny still haunts players to this day. Yet another reason to pick cats as your pet. Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like there's something lurking just outside of sight? While most are stories, there is one Minecraft mob that actually turns invisible, peering at you with its watchful eyes. It's the spider. See, when a spider spawns, there's a chance that it's given a potion effect. And they can get speed, strength, regeneration, and unfortunately for us, invisibility. And these invisible spiders will become completely transparent with the exception to their eyes, which still glow red, even through the dark. And until we get the creaking in the new update, spiders are probably the closest thing we have to a chilling entity like Herobrine. You may see experienced Minecrafters build their mob farms down next to the bedrock level, but it's not that lower is better. See, it's a common myth that building your farms lower in the world actually increase their spawn rate. Since what actually matters here isn't that it's being lower in altitude, but more specifically, lowering the total height that the game has to check for blocks. So if you were to build a mob farm at bedrock, make sure to remove the cave ceiling above it. Since if you don't expose it to air, the benefits of building the farm lower would amount to almost nothing. Did you hear that? Yeah, that's a cave noise, and it's still around all the way from Minecraft Alpha. And they're the eerie sounds that you'll hear while you're mining deep underground. And if you listen closely, some of them even sound like they're alive. Now these noises have spawned myths and legends about their origins, one of which is known as the Cave Dweller. But much like our friend Brian the hero, it's a myth, and you'll only ever see it in the game through modded Minecraft. So even if you get scared by the sound, it'll never hurt you and it never will. Mending is Minecraft's most valuable enchantment. Using it makes your diamond tools effectively infinite in durability, but despite it being so useful, there's no consistent way to acquire it. Now you might have heard that swamp librarians are actually a secret source of the mending enchanted books, but unfortunately this is only half true. Now, if you were to make a swamp librarian in your world, you'll find that they're only going to have the normal traits, with a minuscule chance at mending. And the reason for this is it's only in Minecraft's recent villager experiments that they've played with the idea of making biome-specific traits. And if those experiments happen to go through to vanilla, then you would have to go and take your villagers and breed them in the swamp. But until then, you're going to have to get really used to making the librarian lectern reset. This is the banner that's dropped by a pillager patrol captain. It's a unique design that can't be crafted, making it pretty rare. And while a new player might think that the ominous banner has special effects, the truth isn't that simple. See, when the Village and Pillage update first came out, there were rumors that it increased the amount of pillager patrols that spawn in the area, and that by putting one down, you'd be able to get the bad omen effect more consistently and even start raids. However, that's just untrue. The ominous banner has no special effect, and it's nothing more than a unique banner design. Witches don't attack villagers. Now I know you're saying that's crazy. Are you sure? And it's true, witches will not. Even when they're part of a raid, they'll never attack a villager. All the raiding witches do is simply throw potions at the allies and you, but never at a villager. And the same is true for normal witches. They just don't care. And while the healer's always a priority target during a raid, the witches could be the exception if things are getting tight. Since if some vindicators are chopping down the last tier librarians, I'd consider giving the witches a break for a moment. It might just save your raid. When I first saw Ravagers wearing saddles, it was an infinite world of possibilities. Namely the idea of riding one into the sunset. And maybe if we only kill off the rider during the raid, that would give us the ability to claim it as our own and ride off the majestic steed. But sadly, that's not in Minecraft. And Ravagers is the only mod that show its saddle on its texture that still can't be ridden. But if you don't believe it, give it a shot just in case. I mean, surely it'll work this time. But we can still get the Ravager to give us a lift. We just have to build this Ravager launcher that shoots us 1,200 blocks away. But hey, doesn't need a saddle. Ghasts, ghosts. There's a single letter between the two. And a reasonable player might assume that ghasts are considered undead, which should make the ghasts vulnerable to the smite enchantment, similar to other undead mobs like zombies, phantoms, or skeletons. But this assumption would be wrong. A lie. A myth. Since ghasts currently fall under 0 useful mob categories. Like, did you know that undead mobs are a category used to scare armadillos? And so if an armadillo sees one, it'll crawl into a ball until the undead leaves. Well, apparently ghasts are just fine. Not at all a problem for the armadillo. Now, ghasts fly, that's undeniable, but one might assume just by looking that they materialize out of thin air. And luckily for you, that's a common mistake. See, ghasts are just like any other mob. They require a spawning space on blocks, and specifically, they need a 5x5 floor with 4 blocks of height to be able to spawn. So if you're looking to gas-proof certain areas of the nether, you can never go wrong with some good old-fashioned slab spam. Just place a slab every so often, and you'll have no gas whatsoever. Have you ever seen a zombified piglin hanging out by your nether portal? Well, it makes sense story-wise. The the zombified piglins that we see coming into the overworld aren't actually coming from the nether. See, nether portals are essentially player-made mob spawners that create zombified piglins. Yeah, the other side of your portal doesn't actually exist until something enters and then loads it. And knowing this, that's the mechanism that makes these gold farms with huge rows of giant nether portals. Just make sure you don't accidentally link it with your exit portal. Slimes and magma cubes are practically identical, but it's a common misconception that they have the same loop behavior. See, slimes drop slime balls only in their smallest form, while the magma cubes are the opposite. They'll only drop magma creams when you kill the large or medium sizes. Now this, combined with the fact that small slimes have 0 attack damage, while small magma cubes can still hit back, Mojang's crafted this into a strange parallel. Well, despite the differences, it's always optimal to kill their small forms, whether for loot or for safety, just like turtles. Blazes take damage from water, right? It just makes sense. They're kind of like fire elementals, and fire elementals are weak to water. But do blazes work like Pokemon? Well, they actually do, and in several ways. Now, if you're curious, grab your favorite fire type, and you'll notice that blazes are not only weak to water, but also every type of water in Minecraft. Like snowballs, which usually do 0 damage, now do a total of 3 damage to blazes. And that extends to rain, water buckets, and even splash water bottles. And so if you accidentally brew a couple of those up, they might not be completely useless, whether for extinguishing the blazes or yourself. Did you know shulkers can come in all different kinds of colors? And so they must be dyeable, right? I mean, you could take the shulker boxes and slap dye on them. And figuring that we could take the wool and color it in a crafting table, as well as the wool that's on the sheep before we shear them, it makes sense that we're able to do this to live shulkers. But unfortunately, this is just a myth. And the shulkers cannot be dyed into colors other than their default purple. By using this command, you can summon a colored shulker identical to the shulker boxes that you use for storage. It's in the game, it's just not implemented. Nah, throw it in the same box as the illusioner, I guess. Do you remember the first time you fought the Ender Dragon? It was full of fear, importance, anticipation, and a common strategy for new players is the use of golems. And since iron golems are so expensive and don't have range, you might default to snow golems. Now, they can be a little helpful keeping away the Enderman, but did you know that they actually do 0 damage to the Ender Dragon? Absolutely none. Just like the snowballs that you throw yourself, a snow golem's projectile only damages the blaze. So even if you were to say spawn 100 snow golems, the dragon would never take a single point of damage. And in fact, the only cases where it would is if you have the snow golems blow up the end crystals, which then can do an AoE effect on the dragon. But they don't aim onto those normally, so it's still a myth. Endermen are one of Minecraft's most terrifying mobs. And just accidentally making eye contact is enough to get you in your grave. And so these encounters have allowed us to make little different tricks to stop them. Water buckets do nicely, carved pumpkins are also consistent, but what about invisibility potions? Surely if the Enderman can't see our eyes, then they won't be able to sense our gaze, right? And you'd be right about that, it works, to an extent. See, invisibility potions allow us to admire the Enderman from afar, with no amount of eye contact being able to make an incident. That is, until we get close enough. And that's true for all mobs. Invisibility lowers your aggro range, but it doesn't grant complete immunity, meaning you're never truly safe, even from Herobrine. If you're still mining for your diamonds on Y level 11, you're wasting your time, since with the changes to world generation and the Caves and Cliffs update, we also got changes to the ore distribution, which now means they'll have the best of luck trying to mine for your diamonds between Y level -53 to -59. And that'd be why if you were still mining on Y level 11, you're just getting some iron and coal. Really, your better bet will be looking for diamonds down in the deep caves like this, especially ones that generated underwater or under Skulk, since the less air exposure, the better for your diamonds. Slime blocks save you from a fall. Do slimes actually take fall damage? Well, as you can see there, pretty clearly they do. But what's interesting about this, and what might be the reason for this myth, is that if we did the exact same test as Observer was telling me with magma cubes, there we go, magma cubes, because they scale, don't take fall damage. So they do a lot better, but you know, maybe it's for the best we're not bouncing off of magma blocks. I don't feel like that would be the most comfortable landing. Excuse me. No fall damage doesn't mean you need to go damage me with your fall. So the reason that this difference happens is because slimes will always jump 1 block regardless of size, so it's not exactly important that they would be able to survive that kind of fall. But magma cubes, their jump height scales with the magma cube size. Otherwise, you'd just see a bunch of magma cubes shattering into bits in the basalt deltas. It wouldn't make sense. One of the oldest rules in Minecraft is that you should never dig straight down. But that old rule is really just old hat, since when you crunch the numbers like Mumbo Jumbo did, you notice that over 64% of the time that you dig straight down, nothing's gonna happen. You're not gonna fall into lava, you're not gonna fall into a cave and break your legs, just nothing. And if you want to increase those odds to even better chances of survival, what you could always do is stand in between 2 blocks like this and then mine down one after the other. So then if you notice that one of the blocks drops down into a ravine or lava, you'll still be standing on the other block. And at that point, if you don't correct your mistake, you deserve to fall into lava. How tall are villagers? Are they the same height as the player? Well, as we can very clearly see by the fact that I can exit this door and he cannot, even though visually, if I go and stand next to this villager, we look to be just about the same height. You know, maybe put me back to back. If I stand on my tippy toes, I might be a little taller. Here, let's get a no AI villager for me to stand next to. How about that? So here's our no AI villager. It actually is a little bit taller than me. And if we check the hitboxes, that's all going to be confirmed. There you go. Villagers are taller than players. A player is what, 1.8 blocks tall? And they're exactly 2 blocks tall? Look at that, exactly 2 blocks. Reinforced deep slate is the toughest block that you can mine in Minecraft. But while you're able to mine it, you can't pick it up. That's right, even if someone convinced you that you're able to pick this up with the Silk Touch enchantment, as you can see, that's clearly not the case. And whether you use Silk Touch or not, you're still able to break this block, it'll just never drop an item. Which unfortunately means we can't build our own wither cages. And that's something I'll sorely miss from the snapshots. Is it possible for a charged creeper to be completely invisible? What we're testing here is that some mobs retain parts of their model when invisible. Think of it like wearing armor while you're invisible. So, is this the case with a charged creeper? Because a regular creeper, that's gonna go fully invisible. That's expected behavior. But if I get in a creeper, make it lightning, and then invisit, sure enough, both of those creepers that I have there, you're gonna always see their lightning cloud. A common misconception is that if you mine an ore using the Fortune 3 enchantment, then on top of dropping more items, it'll also drop more XP. But if you take an average from mining the blocks with or without the Fortune enchantment, you'll notice that there's really no difference. And more likely this misconception came about because the amount of XP that drops per ore could actually vary quite a bit. But anything to observe here just comes down to randomness. So our next myth, poison works like regeneration for the undead. So let's get a damaged undead, even a little bit more damage. Now the reason that this might exist is because if I take a splash potion of healing, that'll kill him, but a splash potion of harming heals him up. If I were to get my weakened husk here and I give it poison, does that regen it? So he's not taking poison damage, but he's also not taking any health back either. He's still weak, dies in only 2 punches. Now as it's coded, we're not supposed to be able to stack different slabs of different types together. So explain this. Well, the reason this works is that when you push 2 slabs against each other at the world border, the game knows they're not supposed to push anything outside of the world border, so it creates this illusion of the 2 slabs standing on top of each other. But that's the key word, it's an illusion. But if you want to build next to the world border, it could be a fun little visual to add. Wither skeletons cannot shoot bows. Well, we got a wither skeleton, we gave it a bow with commands. Will it shoot me? Not only does it shoot me, but there's an unexpected behavior where they shoot out fire arrows. So it makes you wonder if there's at some point it actually coded in for wither skeletons to have bows. That's not a bow that's enchanted with flame. That's just it shooting as if it was a flame bow. So wither skeletons, although you won't see this in the base game, will definitely shoot you with bows and arrows if given the chance. Does the same thing happen with a crossbow? Oh, there we go. Just changed it out in the command block. We've now got our crossbow wither skeleton. No, it doesn't work with a crossbow. So only a regular bow, which makes me think that it is a piece of holdover code. Maybe at some point they were supposed to shoot us. Since we're able to use the grindstone to remove enchantments, it begs the question, can we also use it to remove the curses? Unfortunately, no. Since even though it's possible to put the cursed books inside of the grindstone like this, they'll just come out the other side still with the curses applied. Piglins can open up doors. Let's find that out. All right, we got our piglin. I'm gonna leave it be, and sure enough, they can open up doors, which is fascinating to me because there's no doors that summon anywhere near piglins anyway. They're not gonna find any of these by natural generation. There's no piglin village structures, so maybe one was planned at one point. Now this one's actually a double lie. Where you'll have some people say that a lava bucket works just as well as a water bucket for an MLG, whereas others say that lava does nothing to dampen your fall at all. But the truth actually exists in between the two of them, since lava can actually break your fall. It's just it works different than water. And for lava, it'll reduce your fall damage the more of it that you fall through. So if you were to fall from the minimum height to do lethal damage, if you had a lava bucket, you could actually use it to survive the fall. You'll just also be on fire. And I still wouldn't recommend doing this in the nether over something like a powdered snow bucket. That's a lot more versatile. This myth is that shulkers are completely invincible when they're closed up. So if I were to get close to our shulkers, are they taking absolutely 0 damage? The truth is that they'll take decreased damage, but they are still taking damage in such a way where it is possible to kill a closed shulker. It's just gonna waste a lot of your sword's durability or your arrows. You can see by the amount of hearts that are coming off, it definitely takes more when it's open, but it's still possible to kill it when it's closed. Depth Strata can obviously help you move faster in water, so what about lava? Unfortunately, even if you drink a fire resistance potion to test this out, there's no difference that comes from wearing these boots or not. And that means slugging through the nether is gonna be just this slow, regardless of how you do it. I promise this isn't a horror video, but added all the way back in Minecraft 1.9, we got Cave Sound 14. And cave sounds are those spooky ambient noises that you hear while you're exploring the depths. And that single sound alone is the entire reason for inspiring horror mods like the cave dweller. But if we were to take that cave sound 14 and put it into a spectrogram, it actually displays the distorted face of a creeper. And that's why I don't go underground. If you have chickens attached to a lead, then you can actually hold on to these to stop yourself from any kind of fall damage. Well, let's give that a test. A bunch of chickens on leads. It's not the most, but it should be enough. Fantastic. There's my bridge. It was a pleasure knowing you, observer. Make sure I don't drop any chickens before I need to go and jump off. And see ya! Well, for one, my leads break, but that's also not a feature of the game, despite what TikToks might get you to believe. There are actually over 1,000 hats that are coded inside of Minecraft, and this is due to the /item command. See, by doing /item replace, you can put any item in the game into your head armor slot. Now, not all of them are winners. Like a pufferfish on your face probably isn't the prettiest, but certain items have little details coded to make them more interesting. Like, for example, feathers or leads. The feathers will poke straight out of the back of your head, and while the lead will position onto the front of your face, looking more like a monocle. Though if you want to look like a proper dapper gentleman, there's really only one option. Do villagers need beds? Well, we got a villager. He seems to like his bed. I wouldn't have guessed pink for you with the eye patch. The truth is that villagers will still trade even without needing a bed. So if I go and trade with him and then I break his bed, he's still fine. It all depends on this workstation block. So you can always work, they're just not gonna sleep. The reason that you would want beds for villagers is two-pronged. One is that you need it for villager breeding, and in fact, every open bed is gonna be another villager that they can breed for. And also, they need beds to establish what a quote-unquote village is to then make iron farms. I've ever wondered what it would look like to be an item frame? Oh, but now you can, because if you try possessing one in spectator mode, it actually works. And that's because the item frame is an entity that we can possess like all other mobs. And it's not just item frames that we can possess. Paintings, armor stands, all of them can be subject to our prying eyes. Now, in fairness, I'd rather look at a painting instead of look through the eyes of a painting. The rest of the gallery is not so pretty. Is it possible to make golems with redstone? Sort of. Because you can automatically place a pumpkin. It's actually one of the only blocks you can auto place with a dispenser. And then that carved pumpkin gives us the iron golem. But consider we're not able to auto place any of those other blocks. You can auto finish a golem. Can you auto make one? Not necessarily. Finding Minecraft details can be a tricky process, and sometimes the real secrets don't come from the game itself. For instance, take the iron golem. Now, in-game, I always figured this red pixel functioned as the pupil. But no, all it takes is one look at the official 2019 Valentine's Day post from Mojang's Instagram to see that the red part is actually the golem sclera. So does that mean that this is canon? Well, I guess I don't know. After all, there was the famous Bluestone incident from the Village and Pillage trailer, so maybe promotional art isn't always to be trusted. But if I had to bet on my assumption versus the artist's rendition, I'd pick the official every time. This myth is that you can't one-shot a wither past its half-health armor. So the idea is that the fight is broken up into two phases, almost like a Pokemon raid boss. You can't go and one-shot it completely past its shield. Let's test that out. All right, oh shoot, I guess I gotta attempt the smash. Let's give that a shot. Oh yeah! So as we know, with overkill, it's entirely possible to kill the wither in one shot. The pillager mob definitely has a problem with anger management. But if you're trying to impress your friends as the master pacifist, then you should know that it's actually possible to take one of these monsters and bring it over to the good side. You see, just as crossbows work for us, they can actually have their crossbows break. Meaning that if you bait them out of enough shots, they'll eventually be left with no weapon in sight. And at that point, they might still seem a little grumpy, but sure enough, they're pacified. And while I wouldn't feel comfortable reuniting them with society just yet, with progress like this, it's definitely a step in the right direction. Striders will die if they're outside of lava. As we can very clearly see from our friend over here, he does get cold, but will he die? Well, given normal causes, he won't. But as Observer's gonna show off with the weather command, the reason this might have happened to your overworld Strider, and the reason that it happened to mine Futon in the July series, was that rain can actually kill these off after long enough. So if it goes and dies in the rain, or if it wanders into some kind of thing of water, it will die off just the same. If I have a set of water there, it will still die off in that way. But just by the simple fact of being outside of lava, that myth is debunked. Even though magma cubes are made of, well, magma, they can swim in water just fine. And in fact, they're the only mob that you'll find in the nether that can swim normally. Now, when you see a hostile mob spawn in a village, you're probably not paying much attention to your villagers. I mean, after all, you want to deal with the threat. However, if you take a close look, you can actually notice that when villagers are nervous, they'll begin sweating and emit water particles above their head, which I think is a really cute detail. If anything, it's just a smart way to reuse this particle effect in a different way. But it might be hard to get a villager stuck in one place long enough to see this, because also when villagers get scared of a zombie, they'll start running even faster than the player can at max speed. Yeah, they get a little scared and that's all the inspiration they need. So this myth is that you can instantly tame a horse if you give it an enchanted golden apple. Well, let's see. I got my enchanted golden apple, I shift click it. Is it instantly tamed? Not at all. While certain items are definitely better, it's not like it's that much better. I still had to give it 9 enchanted golden apples just to get it like this. Don't waste your enchanted golden apples on this. You're literally better off if you just put it towards a thing banner pattern. If I were to get a regular and give it regular golden apples, still very expensive, might I add. Just the same, I gave it 10. It is the fastest way to tame them. You're getting no benefit from the enchanted one over the regular one. The Ender Dragon wasn't supposed to be the only dragon in Minecraft. And in fact, there used to be an idea for a red dragon as well. As Notch said, this mob would have been slightly less dangerous than the Ender Dragon, and that they would have spawned in the overworld instead. And hey, even Jeb and Dinnerbone have mentioned wanting to add the mob at some point, so it's definitely been considered, but it doesn't seem like it's coming anytime soon, if at all. Certain horse breeds are a faster speed. Let's see. Whoa! Opa! All right, we got all these horses, and I could go ride as many of them as I want, but the truth is that the color of the horse has no impact on how fast they go, which I think is kind of nice. If you want any horse that you want in a specific color, you could get it fast. It'll just take a lot of breeding. Unless you're a rabbit, foxes in Minecraft seem pretty adorable, but that's only because you haven't seen them at full force yet. Sure enough, it's entirely possible for the fox to hold a sword in its mouth and completely use it. And while this not only makes for a really solid Zacian cosplay, it can also be really beneficial because you can use the fox with a fire aspect sword to make cooked chicken farms. Truly, you can't judge a book by its cover, so if you see one of these holding a sword, you might want to back away, or at the very least, keep your chickens in the coop. Spiders will attack bees. Well, let's see. Yeah, I don't think they signed any kind of peace treaty. I think this is just actually spiders will never attack bees. And now, if it's turned to night, still no difference. So the truth is that if your bees are disappearing, it's more likely that they lost their home on accident, because bees will continue to wander away further and further from the bee nests. If you have trouble fighting mobs at night, then you might want to brew up some weakness potions. Since surprisingly so, these can render a lot of mobs completely useless. And you'll see as much if we use it on a zombie. They will still do their attack animation, however, you don't even receive a damage tick or a knockback when they do it. And folks, that's on hard difficulties. And it's not just zombies either. This will happen for slimes, spiders, and even silverfish. And perhaps my favorite yet, if you use a weakness potion on a cave spider, that'll prevent it from poisoning you too, which really makes these ankle biters seem a lot less intimidating when you use it like that. The next myth we're testing says that a spider can climb the world border. Well, we can't place any blocks off the world border, so that would be a little weird. There we go. If I get my spider in, and if I get up here, go into survival, is it able to climb up towards me? Sure enough, a spider is able to climb the world border, which is such a weird sight. Look at that go. I can't place any blocks off of this. I can't shoot any arrows through it, but for some reason the spider can climb up it. Oh, that is weird. Observers pointing out that they can walk through it just fine, but they still climb it like a block? That's a very weird behavior. It's physically possible to explode a block of obsidian. Now, obviously, you couldn't do this with regular TNT, no matter how many you explode at once, but if you use this command to summon a prime piece of TNT with an explosion power of 72 or above, it'll be strong enough to destroy a piece of obsidian. Spiders cannot climb magma blocks. Well, let's see. We got our setup and we aggro the spider. Will it climb up the magma blocks? Sure enough. It's not even taking damage from it. Now, the reason this myth exists is because this is a Bedrock Edition only feature. So in that version, the spiders can't climb magma blocks. But for those of us on Java, it's not a way to keep you or your villagers safe in this case. By building a structure made out of gold blocks, cobblestone, and a nether reactor core, you could build yourself the so-called nether reactor, which was a feature that only exists in old versions of Bedrock Minecraft. And once you went through all those steps of building it, then what would happen is that you'd get this message telling you it was active, for it generated this massive structure of netherrack around it called the Nether Spire. And in a version of the game where you couldn't go into the nether dimension actually, this was a solid substitute. But as soon as there was an actual way to go into the nether dimension, there wasn't really a point for this, and it's been lost to time. When you toggle a piston between on and off rapidly with a gravity-affected block such as sand on top of it, then eventually the piston will actually break the block. Which, there you go, can even be picked up as an item. Is it practical? Not exactly. You're way better using a slab or something. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?